if you think about what has happened to Steve Cohen, talk about falling from grace. This is the guy who was the king of the hill. And yes, he's still going to be a billionaire. He's still going to be worth $8 to $10 billion. But the fact that he has to shut down the firm, $1.8 billion in fines, the firm put out a statement yesterday apologizing, and guess what, you two? It wasn't enough. Prosecutors said you're just not apologetic enough. So last night around 8 p.m., they sent out another statement where basically they're more apologetic. They say even one person crossing the line into illegal behavior is too many, and we greatly regret that this conduct occurred. We hadn't heard that before. Earlier, it was just SAC doesn't tolerate this. The prosecutors are saying we want this pound of flesh. And just remember this, the fact that no one is getting immunity here, this ain't over. There's still 2 insider trading cases pending, Martomo and Steinberg. They could flip on Steve. We could see criminal prosecution here.
You know, I opened up the papers today. I mean, I think it was the New York Post that had his face plastered on the front page. The public, I mean, rarely does the public care in many ways about these cases, or, you know, unless you're talking about a Bernie Madoff. But people really love to hate this guy.
Well, guess what? People love to hate rich people, but in this case,
Steve Cohen in particular.
Well, I mean, think about it. You haven't seen a corporate takedown like this since the 1980s. It's a huge deal.
Will they be successful at corralling the quote-unquote wrongdoing to X number of people away from Mr. Cohen? That's what I can't figure out.
Well, what's unique about SAC is that Steve has what's known as a main book. He has all of these individual teams, but every Sunday night, every team goes to Steve and says, here's my best ideas. And on Monday morning, he puts on the best ideas. So the commingling that goes on at SAC is much different than a Balyasny, a Bluecrest, a Brevin Howard, a Citadel. It's unique. So now that Steve has to shut down and become a family office, which essentially he already is, it's going to be an issue. He can't have other teams. He can't bring more talent in, even if he's giving a 30% payout.
I know, Tom, you had Arthur Levitt on
Yes.
earlier this morning, and I thought he made a great point about how much of an example the Steve Cohen, the insider trading case, made for the public. But let me just play one part of what he said to you. Sure,
please.
This is real theater. This is David versus Goliath. Little Mary Jo White takes on great big Stevie Cohen, not just for a day or a week or a month, but for years. And her tenacity, her toughness has delivered what a great SEC chairman should deliver.
And there's Arthur Levitt. You think of the Nicholas Lehman piece in this week's The New Yorker magazine on Chairman White. And that's where we go now, Steph. We go from the drama of the attorney to the SEC and any civil penalties. Arguably, that's a lot more serious for Mr. Cohen and his ability to do business.
Okay, well, how about the philanthropic fallout for Steve Cohen? He loves to be a big deal. The guy sits on the board of the Robin Hood Foundation as well as Brown University. Remember, when Bob Diamond went through his LIBOR scandal and got tossed from Barclays, his students, Colby College, protested against him sitting on the board. So it'll be interesting. What's Brown going to say? What's Robin Hood? Remember, Robin Hood sort of touts itself as being led by the noblemen of Wall Street. There ain't nothing noble about what just went down at SAC.
Can you see him shrinking back at all? Or, I mean, what would be next for him then?
Well, they're going to have to shut down being an advisory firm, so it's going to just have to be Steve's own money. Granted, he's got a ton of it, but his ability to bring in talent and how that's going to go is very complicated. We don't know how it'll work out.
I look at this, and I think within all the time it's gone on, as Arthur Levitt said, this was immense theater. But you really wonder, how will it stick with Mr. Cohen? And the thing I would focus on is in the FT, they had a single line. He's been charged with no wrongdoing. It's the oddest thing. And we're talking about all these things, and yet where's the crime? Where's the wrongdoing? Maybe it comes out. Maybe we will see something we don't know about.
Is that a failure? Is that a failure that the SEC could not find enough evidence to criminally charge himself?
I'm not going to give an opinion on it. That's not what we're doing here. But I would suggest that there's more to follow, and they've got to really finally pin him down, even on a civil basis, if not a criminal basis.
But Betty, I will defend him. People are saying, well, $1.8 billion isn't enough. He still has $10 billion. You can't fine the guy based on how rich he is. You can't say, you know what, I'm sorry, make it $8 billion so he loses his house. The fines are what they are. The fines are representative of what the wrongdoing was. In fact, they tacked on an extra $200 last night for filing fees. I mean, the government is making him pay for everything.
Where does that money go, by the way? The fine, where does that go?
Right now, it goes into the Treasury. Unclear specifically where it'll go. I assure you, we're going to hear from Bart Chilton, who will say, CFTC needs some.